Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. In this one we're looking at the NETGEAR Nighthawk XR500 gaming router. Now if you've never heard of NetGEAR, there were guys that made the first ever gaming router aimed specifically to keep down lag and ping to give you an exceptional gaming performance. Now they teamed up with NETGEAR to incorporate their software into a NETGEAR router. So NetGEAR software combined with NETGEAR's hardware has made the ultimate gaming router, the XR500. So before we go in a bit more depth with the XR500, I just want to mention the X10 review I did previously. If you want to check that out, I'll put a link on the screen now, as that may be something of interest to you if you're looking for a high-end router, but not necessarily going to use all the gaming aspects. That's another option to look at. Now for the people that want to know the detailed specs, I'm going to reel through those now quickly, and then we can get on with going through the box and what's included. So you've got the Wi-Fi supports AC 2600, which is 800 megabits at 2.4 gigahertz, and then 1733 megabits over the 5 gigahertz network over simultaneous dual band Wi-Fi. It's got a powerful dual core 1.7 gigahertz multi-core processor, which also supports multi-user MIMO, 256 megabytes of flash and 512 megabits of RAM on board. Uses Internet Protocol version 6. You have 5 gigabit Ethernet ports, one of which is used as the WAN to take your internet in, and then 4 to use on your devices. Support for 2 USB 3.0. You've also got other security features as well, such as DDoS attack prevention, double firewall protection, Wi-Fi protected access, and then also VPN support. So inside the box you'll find 4 antennas, the instruction manual and also a CD if you still use CDs, an Ethernet cable, and then 2 power adapters with different region plugs. Now one thing I do want to say quickly before we get into the actual kind of main bulk of the review is the sticker that's included on the router. Now I'm not sure whether it was just my model because it was kind of one of the early samples, but the sticker was extremely difficult to get off, and being it's quite a stealthy router, I wanted it to look all black and didn't want a white sticker on, but it was so difficult to get rid of that sticker, and it even left residue that I just couldn't get off. So just a quick note to NETGEAR, please make the stickers easier to peel off. Okay, so onto the XR500 itself. Now I don't know about you, but I think the front of this looks like maybe the back of a Lamborghini. Definitely the aggressive styling on it, but something I do really like on this. Definitely nice aesthetics. I certainly think this is going to be a router that you'll be proud to display on your desk, unlike one of the traditional box routers that you're definitely going to keep underneath a desk or out of sight. So let's have a little walk around of the router and then we'll go on to the software. So on the very left hand side you've got a nice little NETGEAR logo. On the right hand side we've got a WPS and then a Wi-Fi button to turn it on and off. These also are illuminated when the router's on. So front and centre we've got the LED indicators to show different statuses of the router. So your power, internet, 2.4 GHz, 5 GHz, and then your guest Wi-Fi network, as well as the USB ports, then your 1 to 4 network ports on the back. So the left hand side, as you look onto the router, you've got your USB ports. Now if you want to use ReadyShare to maybe watch a video or play photos or anything like that, just plug it into the side here and then you can view those directly from your router. And it's also USB 3, so you can use the fastest drives on the market. Now this is where your antennas screw in on the device. Now thanks to the magic of editing, I've been able to show you that a little bit better than you would be able to see normally. Now you have 2 different types of antennas included. The ones labelled 2 and 3 go into the sides of the router, and then the number 1s go into the back. Once you've screwed them in, you can easily adjust them however you like, although NETGEAR recommends you have the 2 back ones straight up and then the left and right at a 45-degree angle. So on the business end of the router where you're going to connect all your ports and devices, you've got the LED switch, easy to toggle on and off. You can also do that in the software as well, which is a nice touch should it be somewhere a little bit difficult to get to. A reset button, should you need to restore to default settings, just press and hold that in for 30 seconds. Your 1 to 4 LAN ports are obviously connected in your wired devices here. Then the 5th for your internet, either through a direct fiber connection or through a modem. Then you've got your DC power and then a power switch. And then underneath the little rubber caps, you've got your 2 extra ports to screw on the antenna 1s. And obviously match them up with antenna 1 to antenna 1. NETGEAR say that if you do cross them over, you may get a little bit of interference and your Wi-Fi may not work quite as well. So make sure you put them in the right way round. Not a lot going on the bottom of the router. You have got all your details for your Wi-Fi and settings on there as the default ones. Then ample ventilation should the router get a little bit warm. Also 4 nice rubber pads to make sure it's not going to scratch the surface it's on. Okay, so something a little bit different. I'm actually recording this live rather than kind of voicing it over to give you a bit more, hopefully of a better look at how the software would work rather than it kind of be a little bit more cut and just rough. So this is the main home hub for the dashboard of the XR500. As you can see, obviously big network overview going up and down here. It's pretty cool actually to see. It's been nice to watch it as network's gone up and down just to see what's going on the network. For example, if I was to just run a speed test here on my other screen, you can see it will kick up massively. There you go. So obviously if you want to see an in-depth breakdown of what's being used on the network, you can do that. There is another app that you can see in a minute, which will show you different devices actually being used on the network as well. So I'll cover that in a minute. Obviously other different bits and bobs up here. Now you can actually adjust these as well to like bring them down and make this kind of personalized to you, so you can move around different widgets and things like that. So I thought that was quite cool. So right, going on to the Geo Filter. This is a geological filter, so you can set how far you want to use specific servers. So for example, I will blatantly not in the US by my accent. So you can set the range on how far this is going to search for servers when you're gaming. So for example, let's bring this down really low. If you want to keep it to kind of EU, make it maybe a little bit bigger. It will then apply that, and then that will kind of limit. I'll tell you what, let's bring it a little bit better for the EU. Kind of limit the server reach that it goes for into that area, so you can obviously keep ping down and make sure there's no lag. If you're going to maybe go against people in the US, you may encounter that. There are other apps on the XR500 that can help you, go against that as well. But it's just another little element that you can implement to make things a little bit more region specific. So onto the quality of service tab, or the QoS for short. The anti-buffer bloat is quite a tongue twister, that actually. It's very useful, especially if you're going to be maybe playing a game that's going to be using a lot of the network. You can set a limit onto how much download and upload it uses on your network. So for example, we want to say maybe 45%, and then we're going to drag the upload to maybe 10. Especially it's handy if you're streaming as well. You can set, so there's to give ample room for uploading to the Twitch servers or whatever live stream software you use. Now if we just eradicate those settings, so I've put my router to 80 megabytes down and then 20 megabytes upload, which is what I'm getting from my IPS. Then we can set this to just a high priority traffic, so whenever you launch a game, the Doom OS will recognize that game and then apply this anti-buffer bloat. Very difficult to say. So if you're always downloading something and you maybe want to launch a game as well, you could always set that to always. But options are there for your own kind of preferences. You can have a play about and see what works best. Now bandwidth allocation I really like. This is great to set different bandwidths for different devices. Really quite cool to play with as well. So for example, the NAS up here is for my network attached storage. It doesn't use download unless it does any firmware, so we can adjust this right down to maybe like 10% of the bandwidth, because it's hardly ever used for the network. And then maybe you say I want to add a little bit more onto my PC, because obviously that's what I'm going to use the most. You can do that, and then just maybe add a little bit less on the phone. You can just keep working it till it finds its kind of comfortable spot. Okay, and it's all divided out like that. So obviously the more devices you have, the bigger this is going to get. So it's going to go to a square, then different shapes depending on how many devices you connect to it. But then you can update that. That goes into play. Same for the upload as well. The NAS doesn't use anything on the upload, and then the desktop's going to be obviously high because I'm going to be uploading for YouTube. And then my phone, again, I don't really use anything to upload, maybe to Dropbox on occasion, but I'm just going to use 25% for that one on the upload. Really cool. Definitely something to play about with when you've got lots of devices on your network. Down below you can do the traffic prioritization as well. So I'm obviously going to use my PC for this one because it's the only thing that's going to be using network, generally speaking. You can go advanced with porting and stuff like that as well if you want to, but say maybe I'm going to be doing a Skype call, and that's going to be the high priority device. So whenever that is kicking into effect, everything else is going to be on the back burner, because obviously your quality of call is going to be a lot more important than maybe someone opening apps on the network, checking their Snapchat or something, especially when that's maybe like a business call. Total traffic information on the right hand side here. I have recently updated this firmware as well just before I recorded this, so if you wonder it's maybe a little bit low, it's just because there was a new patch that was pushed to the router as I actually entered the software, so it's not actually been up that long. Going into the device manager, you've got a little map here just to show you what's connected to where, so it's pretty funky actually. So if you add something else onto the router, onto the same network, it would pop up here, and then you have different layers. So obviously my NAS is currently in standby, that's why that's offline. The desktop, which is my PC, then where it's going from the modem to the router and all that jazz. You can even go onto there, then block specific devices as well. Now the network monitor is a little bit like the one you see on the dashboard, but it's more specific to show each device that's on the network. So for example, if I go into Instagram on my phone, just loading this up now, obviously you can't see this, but you'll see the S8 just rocket up there. Well, not rocket, but you see it uses a little bit more data than anything else. My PC is always going back and forth with, you know, if I'm using Spotify or Skype, it's always connected to that. Always some kind of background network being used from the PC, so it's always drawing. Then you can obviously see the S8 going up every now and again, depending on what app I open. Maybe if I'm pulling emails and stuff, it might take a little bit more. Or if I'm sending a Snapchat, you'll see it all adjust there. But I think it's pretty cool, something to see, just, you know, see what's hogging the network. If you think, oh, it seems to be slowing down a little bit, then you can obviously apply some different changes and prioritize different devices on the network should you see something being a little bit of a hog. So it's a nice way to see it in real time, or you can apply some changes. So system information is a little bit more of a detailed breakdown than what's on the dashboard. You can see different flash and RAM usages on there, which is quite cool as well. Packets of network data and all the different apps and statuses. As I mentioned before, I did put the new firmware, which is the V221.10 on before I did record this. So obviously that's why there's 47 minutes uptime rather than however many days it was beforehand. So just before people say, oh, it's not been used for that long, that's why. It's because the firmware update has been put on. There's always going to be one person that says it. Going on to the settings, obviously this is where you're going to spend a lot of time if you're someone that likes to tweak network to be absolutely bang on to, you know, specific how you want it and your ideal setups and things. I'll just go through a couple of the pages so you can see what's on there. If you're used to NETGEAR routers, this is pretty much standard stuff. I did cover it in my last router review, the X10, and that's all on there as well. So you can name different things and you can monitor and see the traffic. Just another little way of seeing it over the kind of, you know, the visual graphs that you do have on the settings on the actual dashboard. You can schedule things to go on and off, and so maybe if you're doing some parental settings on there, you can do that all there as well. And then you've got access to do your ready share and stuff if you use the USB. Control your LEDs as well if you don't want to do it on the actual router itself. If you maybe tucked it down behind a desk or on a shelf, you can just go in and turn all that off there as well. They're pretty bright, those LEDs, so you may not want them flashing all the time, so nice quick option to do that in there as well. Now the initial setup was so easy, literally detected any network and then just kind of go through some basic settings, you know, setting up my Wi-Fi if you want to change the name. You can use obviously what's on there if you want to just go for the default. That little sticker on the top of the router itself is the little sticker on the top of the router will tell you everything you need to know for that there. You can just change your password and all your different settings. You're going to probably spend a lot of time going onto the device managers and the QoS and changing things for specific devices. So I can't really imagine you're going to be one of the people that just kind of use the default stuff. You're going to go in and make it all personal to you. Now something extra I just wanted to pop in on the end of this clip is if you're a beginner and you're going to go into this, it is very easy to use. Obviously you've got different settings and sliders which make things a lot easier than just doing everything by just seeing numbers and stuff. It can be quite overwhelming when you kind of jump into, you know, a new router and everything looks just all numbers and digits. Can get a little bit confusing, but thankfully the DimaOS does work very easily. And if you need it, there's also a little question mark you can tab. And if you need it, there's also a little question mark on each kind of section that you can click, and it will give you information about what that area is for as well. So if you're ever unsure about a certain part, you can just click on that and it will tell you exactly what's going on. Now, one other part I would like to see, if you do go in to add a device on the Geo Filter, and then the range of games isn't that high. Some games you can actually set the range selections of, you know, your servers in the game itself, but it would be nice to have a bit of a better list than what we got here. There's a lot of newer games, you know, like people are going to want Fortnite and PUBG and stuff like that. So hopefully they'll be updating that and patching that up, you know, quite regularly to include some of the latest games on there. Now the first thing I want to touch on before we go across the details of the software and things like that is my thoughts about the Wi-Fi. I've got a kind of medium-sized house, and no matter where I went in the house, I did get great Wi-Fi coverage. Outside, I could go to about halfway through the garden before it lost range. So in terms of the price of this router compared to the X10 that I previously reviewed, it does offer a great Wi-Fi coverage and also great speed. Certainly maintain those even while outside. I did manage to stay in about the 50 meg download, which is pretty good considering I'm on an 80 download plan. But obviously the main feature of this router is going to be for the gaming aspects, and then the DimaOS. Absolutely perfect. I do love the visual design. and the GUI that it offers. It's so easy, especially having a little question mark if you're kind of unsure about a certain aspect. It gives you a little bit more information about what you're playing with, then allows you to kind of learn it a little bit easier, rather than just looking at numbers, which can seem overwhelming to especially the novice user of routers. But with the spec of this router, with an easy to use application, it's nice to see. Having the ability to prioritize the traffic, I think, is probably one of the most useful things on the Doomer OS. Certainly one that I'm going to be using a lot more, probably over the other features. Just whenever I kick into a certain game or application, I'm going to prioritize my PC over anything else, which I think is really cool. Then pairing that with the anti-buffer bloat, I think it's going to be another way to make sure everything runs nice and smooth. Maybe somebody that works from home that also has a family that has a lot of things going on their network, going to be another great feature for them to prioritize devices on the network as well. But it's nice to see such features available on what's considered a more affordable router over what we've looked at previously, what was kind of the high-end, top model. This does offer a lot of what the X10 does, but at a much more competitive price point. So the current price for this is £239, which I think in the whole grand scheme of things, you can get routers that are a lot more expensive and you can get cheaper ones, but considering this offers a lot of features, and especially that Doomer OS, it is going to be a great bargain. So for maybe Twitch streamers, competitive gamers, people wanting to get into esports, this is definitely going to be down that alley. Just spend some time in the Doomer OS software and get it all precise and exactly nailed how you want your settings to go. Then anyone else that just wants to join onto the network, it's going to take a little bit of a sidestep so you can get really into your games. Now quickly, just before I end this video, I just want to say I'm not a networking professional. If you watch my X10 review, I also said on that I'm not any network expert or anything like that. So this is definitely kind of like pro-consumer thoughts. So if there is anything that I missed you want an answer to, please leave it in the comments box below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But with that being said, thank you for watching this video. I hope it helped out a little bit into making a decision on what route is best for you. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. I'll put links in the description box below if you want to get one for yourself. Thank you to NETGEAR for sending this out for me to review. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.